Hey everybody, how are you doing? This is Emily Moyer from OffPlanet Radio and Matrix MASH, and I am also a nutrition consultant and life coach. And I have been making some videos here where I kind of talk a little bit about all the things that I'm doing right now, but also discuss the various diets I've tried over the years, and also talk about the current experience I'm having while I am experimenting with the carnivore diet. So it's been about a week and a half since I made a video, and I intended to make one every couple of days, but last week was kind of unusual for me. Everything sort of shifted in a lot of ways, in a positive way, since we've all been on timeout, and I've kind of changed the way I'm practicing a little bit, and really trying to encourage people to use this time to get healthy instead of sitting around worrying about getting sick. Instead, sort of flip the script and use this time to get healthy. So I've made my services offering deep discounts and experimenting with a few different ways of meeting people where they're at. And so I've had to adjust to some of the different ways of working to do that. And it's totally exciting, and I'm having an amazing time doing it, but it just last week making some videos got away from me. So I'm trying to catch back up here on this very gray Easter Sunday. And I don't care about Easter. When I was little, I wanted candy. That was it, you know. But it's really gray and dreary today, and it's probably sort of an appropriate mood for a couple of things that I'm going to talk about. What I want to do first is just update people on events that are going on, and then I'm going to kind of talk about something a little different today, and then into the diet stuff. So on an ongoing basis, you can catch me at OffPlanet Radio, Matrix MASH, Words with Danny, on various channels, being OffPlanet Media and here on the Emily Moyer YouTube channel. We're also doing Conspiracy Cocktail every Saturday night, which is a great time. It's an online speakeasy where we do mixology cocktails, talk about weird, funky information, and listen to music. And it's like a totally fun night at the bar. And it's been growing every week, and we're having an amazing time. Last night we had our biggest turnout. And I hope all of you guys will join us there. There is a group on Facebook that you just asked to join. And if you are not on Facebook, then just reach out to me at technobrat21@gmail.com, and I'll put you on the list so that you get invited every week. But please, it's just totally for fun. It's about like having a good time. Nothing else really. I mean, it's informative and stuff in some ways, but the point is to have a good time. We all spend a lot of time, dealing with difficult information or stressful information or serious information. And this is a chance to just have a good time. Also, for those people who are patrons at OffPlanet Media, we are now doing at all levels, we are now doing a weekly health and happiness sort of meetup group that I do with Dr. Laura Wilson. And it is really focused, again, on using this time to get happy and healthy. Both of us have been working in the health field for a while. She for a very long time. She's a doctor of physical therapy and a craniosacral therapist, and me with nutrition consulting. We offer tips and conversation about best ways to use this time. So you can join us there by becoming a patron at OffPlanet Media. And I'm going to get into sort of the point of today's video. Over the last couple of days, some people have left us, and it's kind of interesting timing. And these are two people that I'm aware of that are friends of mine that I never knew, but I consider them friends because I learned from them, and I felt something when I heard that they passed. And I wanted to just say goodbye and thank you to Kilindi Iyi Keith Critchlow. Kilindi Iyi is just a fascinating character. I suggest people who aren't familiar with him check him out. He's done many interviews with Sonia Barrett, and then a lot of interviews with people who are more into the psychedelics topic, and also just some Black or culture or hip hop kind of community stuff. He's been all over the place. He talks about, in a very interesting way, about a variety of topics for all different groups of people. I'm most interested in the things he has to say about cross-dimensional realities and psychedelics, but he was way out there, and he, with no apologies, was a psychonaut extraordinaire. And some of the things that he came back with from his various trips are incredibly insightful, and I just appreciate the swagger with which he did everything he did. And And yeah, he's just a fascinating man to me. Timeless. I could never figure out how old he is. He could be like 50 or 500. And, apparently he died from the virus, but my inclination is more that he's not the kind of spirit that you can lock down. And so he found the seam in the dome and went traveling into another dimension is kind of how I think of it. But whatever happened there, he's a spirit that I appreciate. And then the other is Keith Critchlow, who was a well-known sacred geometer, although maybe less well-known than some of the more typical names in that genre. But I was not familiar with him until I started doing the series with Chris and Steve Creamy that I do on sacred geometry. And I was informed by them of his passing. And I feel honored to be able to pass on some of his teachings through them on the series I do with them. I just adore Chris and Steve. I think that they're super important elders in our community. And their lives were deeply affected, and the things that they know are largely a result of the teachings that they got from him. And then they've been teaching me, and hopefully we're all teaching some of you. And so I don't know, I'm much less familiar with him than with Kilindi even, but I know that friends of mine are feeling that loss right now. And so I wanted to say thank you and goodbye to Keith Critchlow as well. I'm less aware of what the exact circumstances of his death were. I think he was ill for a long time. So I think it's important that we appreciate and remember those who've affected us, even if it's just through some of the information that they passed on. And as I move into the diet I'm going to talk about today, that also connects, because my mentor for, and the person who gave me the foundation for most of what I'm doing now was Ann Boroch, and she passed under also difficult circumstances about 2.5 years ago. And I would not be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for her. She's the author of the book, Candida Cure. But my experience with her wasn't so much from reading her book. It was I went to her as a client. I've given a lot of detail about how I met her and my experience and relationship with her in the Sugarless Programmable Matter series, which I'll link below, as well as in, I think it was a 2017 year-ender for OffPlanet Radio, where I discussed my own personal evolution as a grown-up, as a human being through my friendship with her. So I'll link to those two down below. But today I want to talk about her diet program. That was really the thing that started my change of path in life. And so this video will be called the Candida Cure. And I went to Ann as a client in 2014 when I realized after hearing her talk that I had all of the sort of symptoms and markers of a person with Candida overgrowth. And Candida is basically yeast and fungus overgrowth in the body that then just starts throwing everything out of whack. I mean, I'm giving a very simple explanation here. It's more complicated than that. I recommend people acquaint themselves with what Candida is. Your regular doctor will never tell you about it because there is no pharmaceutical cure for it. It's only a nutritional and lifestyle change cure, and so they're not really interested in that. But it is at the root of a lot of health problems, particularly autoimmune issues, inflammatory issues. Ann believed that Candida was really, with just very few exceptions, the root cause of almost all dis-ease in the body. Now, that was her perspective, and a lot of other people will say, oh, no, it's bacterial issues, or, whatever, like it's H. pylori, or it's this. Everyone has their own perspective based on their own research and what their entrance is into alternative health was. But the fact of the matter is all of those other possibilities really are dealt with, like you can really handle them with the same diet that she prescribed and proposed for dealing with Candida. And I use the things I learned from her during the time I worked with her as a client, the time I worked for her as an assistant for a short time, and then in just my reflections on her work since then. And basically it's eliminating from the diet all those things that sort of break down to sugar or cause inflammation or have other issues that, you know, for people's digestion. So it's no gluten, no dairy, no soy, no sugar. You know, that's sort of the core of it. It's a little bit more detailed than that when you get into it. But the point is to kill off fungus and bring the yeast and bacteria in the body back into balance to create the appropriate environment in the body for optimal health. And her program is like a 90-day or 3-month sort of cleanse or sort of acute program, and then maintenance afterwards, you know, for a lifetime, you know, for a lifetime. And I really, in a lot of ways, stuck to it. I've experimented and incorporated other diets into what I do since then. But I always sort of use that as like a foundation or like the sort of structure for what I'm doing, both with myself and largely for what I do with many of my clients. The interesting thing that I really experienced, this was really when my life started to change. In the last video, I talked about the sugar, alcohol, and drugs diet that I was on. The Candida cure became the end of the sugar, largely the sugar part. You know, I was still, you know, drugs continued to be an issue for me for a while longer, but not that much longer. And part of the reason, I think, was because when my health changed, when the internal environment in my body changed, it started to change the way my brain worked, the way my mind worked, you know, my consciousness, and the way my heart and everything else sort of dealt with reality and with myself. And as I started to clean out the inside of my body, I started to, you know, when you make better decisions about what you're putting into your body, you start making better decisions about what you bring into your life, and the decisions you make on the inside and the decisions you make on the outside. And for me, my body got healthier and healthier. During the time that I was working with her, I was still using drugs, not as heavily as I had been using before that at times, but still sometimes, you know, and but before that, I had been eating really unhealthfully. And so the change that I was making with my nutrition and the rest of the things about my lifestyle, I still experienced a tremendous amount of healing. But the most interesting thing that happened was the clarity of mind. I became very clear on the things that I was doing that were okay and the things that were not okay. And then started to feel a tremendous amount of guilt, remorse, shame for the things that I was doing that I knew were not right. Not that I didn't feel those things before, but I became almost unable to live with myself, you know, at a certain point. You know, it took a little while for that to happen, but, you know, you start to change when you start to become healthy. The way that I felt nutritionally almost immediately, I mean, I'd say within a week of going on a Candida cleanse kind of diet, I started to notice that I had problems that I hadn't been aware of. She had said to me, when I was in the first appointment, do you have any issues with your eyes? I'm like, no, I have 20/20 vision. What are you talking about? She's like, yeah, that's not really what I'm talking about. Just keep an eye on it. I said, well, sometimes my eyes burn. She said, no, that's not really it. She's like, just keep it, you know, just pay attention. And about 4 days after I went on the diet, I was walking outside, and I usually would take my sunglasses off when I would go on a walk. And I took the sunglasses off, and everything was so bright that I almost couldn't take it. And right then I looked up, and the street sign where I was at was actually named Fulbright. And so I knew, like, synchronistically, I was kind of on the right path. So it started with little things like that. I mean, I was not an overweight person, but I was an unhealthy person with tremendous amount of skin issues, and a lot of mental and psychological issues going on. And almost immediately I started to feel better. And one of the other things that was amazing right away from the beginning is I really liked her. And it's kind of like when I was a kid and I would have a gymnastics coach I really liked, I just worked harder for them. And it wasn't that I was working for them, but there are certain people that just have this ability to make you want to make them proud or do well for them. And she had that. And that made this task of massively changing my diet and my life a lot easier. You know, before that, I was a good researcher and I was smart. I knew good things to eat and bad things to eat. I didn't completely understand all the things about sugar and gluten and whatever, but, you know, it's not that you can't, you know all the things without a good person to help you, but having a good person to help you is really important, especially someone that you feel a little connection or energy with or whatnot. And so, I like to think that the people that come to me as clients come because there's something about me they connect with, and I hope to deliver on that. But having somebody you enjoy to work with and to coach you through the process makes it easier to work hard at it and to do well and to stay, be sort of honest with yourself and be accountable and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, the first month I was doing it, I started to feel tremendously better. But I wouldn't say that my skin cleared up a little bit. I wouldn't say there was too many other changes. I felt better. I started to become more functional, not staying in bed so much, getting out and exercising a little more. But then the second month, I started to lose weight. Things really started to shift in terms of like my ability to make things happen a little bit and start to come out of the malaise that I had been in for so long. And that just progressed for a couple of months after that. And it worked so well for me that, like she and I ended up becoming friends, but I ended up working for her a little bit. And I started to play with in my mind the idea that, oh, maybe I do something like that someday. It was a while before I kind of circled back to that. But that period of time and the massive change that I felt in my body, like, is a shift that I will never go back from, right? Like, sometimes I'm doing nutrition more intensely and other times a little less intensely, but I have never returned to the way that I was before. I've never just dropped it completely because I couldn't. Like, it changed me as a person. It changed the course of my life. And the things I've linked to in the bottom explain a little bit more about that. But when you find like a good nutritional path for you, without making it a religion, right? We've talked about that kind of stuff. It starts to change you and it starts to set your life in a direction that intuitively you'll know is right. I remember I was at a party one time about 2 months into the diet initially. And I was talking to this guy and I was telling him about it. And he could see that like I was almost high on my own body. He's like, man, like just the glow that you have and the energy that you're exuding, not only when you're like describing it to me, but just I can feel the aura around you. Like, I want to learn about this, like it was weird. Like we're at a party listening to dance music and I'm telling him about my diet. He's like, yeah, that sounds exciting. And I wasn't doing it in a preaching way. It was like, I was just really feeling amazing in my body for the first time in so long. And so, yeah, so that kind of pushed me into a place where my life was never the same. I'd say that like meeting Ann and doing that 90 days of the Candida cure diet, strictly, and it was a little longer for me. I stayed on it really strictly because I had a really serious case, changed my entire life. And so for people out there that, life isn't going in the direction that they want to, and their health maybe has something to do with it, or a lot to do with it, or even just, you want to get healthier or more in shape or whatever, like you can use diet and the way you make decisions about what you're going to do with your body as an amazing launching point for changing your whole life. And that is what happened with me. And it gives me great satisfaction to be able to help start people down that process as well. I also really am a big advocate of balance and enjoying life. And so I work on that with people too. Like I'm not a diet zealot and I don't like to be a proselytizer. I try not to do that. I don't think I do it. But it can really be a life changer, and more so than almost any other sort of process or life shift that I've had. When you change what you put into your body, you change what comes out of you as well, what you start putting out to the world. And so that's kind of what I have to say about that. I will detail some more about the things that came next for me, but I will say that it changed my body physically, and it changed my mind in terms of I started to become really clear and unable to deny certain things about myself anymore, and not able to live with the things that I was doing that I knew were not good for me, not right for me. And in some ways that was almost more important than the regaining of my physical health, but wouldn't have been possible without it. So anyway, so that was Candida Cure. And I recommend everybody check out Ann Boroch, her work. She's gone now, but and very missed by myself. And but her, I do the best I can to carry on some of her work, and I know there's so many other people out there that were helped and affected by her, and we miss her greatly. On to the carnivore updates. Okay, so my 4 weeks ended a week ago today, but I had said I wasn't going to decide until then what to do, but I am still doing it. I'm still doing it, and for me, the carnivore means I'm doing a carnivore diet, except for one meal on Saturday nights. I've been eating whatever I want, having a couple of cocktails. I will always do that, no matter what diet I'm on, probably. So that's just part of my reality. I like to enjoy food and drinks with the people that I enjoy. And I'm a foodie, and that's not going away. And that leads into what some of my issues are with this diet. There is no doubt that this is a powerful diet that can really shift things for you. A lot of the issues that I was struggling with in terms of, I didn't realize maybe I had some digestive issues, like I couldn't understand why, like I had, since a back injury, like maybe put on like somewhere between 1 and 3 pounds, and I couldn't get it to go away, even when I would work out past the pain point. But now I'm understanding some of that was bloating and water and whatnot, and some digestive issues, maybe some serious inflammation in places. And also just the keto, I was doing a sort of keto-ish diet, sort of somewhere between a Candida and a keto diet. It just wasn't having the same effect for me that it had been for so long. So I needed to sort of switch it up a little bit. And one thing that I'm definitely willing to say is that when you stop eating any carbohydrates, that really cuts the desire for carbohydrates. So for me on keto, even though I might just be eating vegetables in addition to whatever meat and stuff I was eating, having that little bit of carbohydrates was like having a pinprick that started something, like if you scratch a little, you'll itch some more kind of thing. Then I was always wanting some further kind of carbohydrate that got into ones that would take you out of ketosis. Not that being in ketosis is everything, but I would want treats or pizza or whatever. And sometimes it was like this unending desire for it. And I couldn't understand it because there was times on the keto diet where I hadn't experienced that, but something shifted for me. And I don't know. Like I'm having to ask myself a lot of questions here because I'm surprised at how this went. I really thought that not much was going to happen. I was going to think it was ridiculous. I wasn't going to feel good, but that's not the truth. I feel better. My energy levels are really good and even throughout the day. I don't feel sluggish or tired. I'm sleeping less, but still feeling reasonably well rested. Although it has been difficult for me to sleep through the night on this, and I'm kind of trying to figure out what and why that is. I do also have a dry mouth during the night sometimes when I wake up, and I'm trying to get to the bottom of that. So, like I'm doing some research. I have some ideas, but those are factors about this. But I feel better. I am not bloated. I am losing weight. And one of the things that's been really good for me, well, I'll say this. At the first couple of weeks, I thought maybe this was helping me, like my back pain was getting better. But in the last 2 or 3 weeks, my back pain has returned to pretty much its normal level. And I often have this with the thing with my back. Like I'll try something new, whether it's a new therapy or a different thing with my food or whatever, and it'll feel better for a little bit and then it goes back. So I can't say for sure that the anti-inflammatory effect of the carnivore diet helps with my back issue. Like I know other people say it does. For me, it isn't, but this is how it's helping my back issue. Generally before, when I had back pain, I would still feel compelled to exercise at the same level I would when I didn't have pain because I'm vain and I'm concerned about how my body looks. And I have a way that I like to look and feel. And it isn't just vanity in terms of appearance. It's like I like to feel good in my body. And for me, that's a certain level of athletic performance. So then if I can't do that, I feel upset that I can't do the athletic performance. And also I don't feel like my body, like me. And with the carnivore diet, my body is, I don't need to do quite as much exercise to maintain a body that I'm comfortable with. I'd say I'm about 75 to 80% to the place that I want to be. But on the days that I feel like I can't exercise because my back is bothering me, it's okay. It doesn't send me into like worry and guilt and all that kind of stuff because I'm human and I have that too. I don't have it all figured out yet. And when I can't get my body to do exactly what I want it to do, it still upsets me like everyone else. I've developed a lot more like coping mechanisms and strategies than I used to have. But one of the nice things about the carnivore diet is I don't feel, I'm not eating things that I don't want to say that aren't good for me, but I'm not eating things that cause inflammation, bloating, other things that make me not feel good. And so I'm not having to try and exercise them away, right? Like, and I don't even know if that's a good solution for some of those things, but that's what was happening in my own psychology. I was a gymnast. I have that, mentality that I always want to win at everything that I'm doing, and I want to look good and this and that. And the carnivore diet, immediately within the first few days I went on it, before I even could see any effects, somehow changed my psychology and how I was feeling about my body. And I, for the life of me, at this point, can't explain it other than perhaps the increase in fat is, helping my brain, and the decrease in, what little, I wasn't eating a lot of sugar, but the way carbohydrates break down to sugar is just making my brain function different. I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm still looking into it. I'm doing research. I'm learning from other people. It seems like this is a common occurrence, but that's my experience with it. I don't think it's necessarily helping my back pain, but it's helping me deal with my back pain. So those are the plus signs. I have not had a single blemish anywhere on my skin, other than I've cut myself and scraped myself a couple times, for over 5 weeks now. And that is a first time for me since I was in my early 20s. I used to have very clear skin. And then as my life went a mess, so did my skin. That's not what I'm having right now. My skin is the best it's ever been, I think, or at least since then. So that's amazing. My mood is really even, but I find the diet to be boring. I like steak. Steak is one of my favorite things to eat. But just eating meat all day, every day, is tedious texturally, and it's just boring. And I know that there's a lot of people in the carnivore community who like to say that, oh, well, we're not here to eat, too many people live to eat, right? And that they need to stop doing that, and everything about their life will get better. On a certain level, I understand it. I had a lot of time and energetic space freed up by not thinking about food, and because I know what I'm going to eat and whatnot. But on the other hand, I'm a foodie. I enjoy food. I like eating out. I like a variety of different kinds of foods, and I enjoy the dining experience. I enjoy cocktails and whatnot, and I'm still doing that on Saturday night, but I find the diet tedious. And one of the things that I've kind of moved into is eating more dairy, which I guess I thought before was not okay for me. It seems to be. So maybe the problems were with something else and I was just perceiving it as the dairy. But I eat too much heavy cream this way, right? Because that's like it's a different texture than meat. And so I'm finding myself consuming cheese, which I don't normally consume, and a lot of heavy cream. And for me, I'm using this diet partially to get into the kind of shape that I want to be in, and eating a lot of cheese and heavy cream, while it hasn't stopped me from getting some progress, I think it's keeping me from getting as much progress as I'd like. So I'm trying to figure out, is it better to eat some vegetables, but then that might make me start wanting other things? I'm still perplexed by this. So trying to sort it out, trying to do research and just use my own body as an experimental lab with this kind of thing. So for now, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to continue doing carnivore the way I've been doing it, in terms of just eating something else on Saturday night, until I'm no longer feeling like I'm getting progress from it. And then when that comes, then I'll decide what to do next. But for now, I am much happier in my body and feeling much better than I did 5 weeks ago. So for now, I'm going to continue doing it. I'm cautious about getting too carried away with this, right? Like, I don't want, like I said in the very beginning, like, I immediately worried when I saw that carnivore was becoming popular. Is this like the full pendulum swing to the other side from like the vegan thing, or is it like a Hegelian dialectic, right? Like it's a thesis, antithesis, synthesis. Like, what is this about? But I would be lying if I didn't say that I feel way better than I ever did on a vegan, vegetarian diet, any of that kind of stuff. And I feel certainly as good as I did at the height of my benefits from the Candida diet and from keto. So I'm inclined to keep doing this, and as long as I'm feeling really good and seeing benefits. And then when I get to a place where I'm not, then I'll reassess. So for now, this is what I'm doing. I invite people who've been doing it longer to chime in with any words of wisdom on how they deal with the boredom of food. I like food. I'm not interested in just having food serve as only a function. I think it's been good that it's become a little bit more of a function for me and less of like an activity or a entertainment, whatnot. But I'm not interested in giving up enjoying dining out and cocktails and things like that. On occasion, I don't have to have that all the time. So that's that. Yeah, that's what's going on for me there. I will say that I'm starting to wonder if something is wrong with the vegetables. Like I hear people say that, oh, vegetables are, a lot of carnivores will be like, vegetables are poisonous. But for a long time, I felt perfectly good and healthy and fine eating them. So I may have changed, but I'm also wondering if we're experiencing such a change in our kind of environment and world with like all the Wi-Fi and the frequencies and maybe wherever we are, like in terms of the Schumann resonance of the earth and all of these things that are going on, that if it's not somehow maybe affecting vegetables and the way that we sort of uptake them, digest them and whatnot, because for a long time I was eating keto and feeling great and vegetables were fine, and then all of a sudden I wasn't feeling that way. And so if whatever is going on in the world that is changing everything else, I'm wondering if it's changing how we deal with food. I guess it would seem obvious that it has to be, but yeah, so these are just all the sort of crazy thoughts and feelings I've been having as I go through this. Yeah, but I will say this also. Carnivores, all the carnivores I've talked to, met, listened to their videos, watched the way they behave online, they mostly seem like very friendly, happy people, which is different than what I've experienced with some other sort of dietary communities. And that's interesting. And I have to give a lot of weight to that, right? Like that, I don't believe that, I believe that we should be able to be here and feel good and be happy. And if whatever you're doing health-wise is not helping you to feel good and be happy, and I'm not talking about like, la, 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 everything's perfect. That's not what I'm talking about. But when somebody is glowing and feeling good and is healthy and is moving in the right direction in life. And I see that a lot amongst the things I've observed with the people who are doing carnivore. And I would be lying if I said otherwise. So I'm trying to stay very neutral on my, thoughts and feelings about that. But that is the truth for, as far as what I'm seeing. So I think that kind of wraps it up for today. Yeah, if you are interested in a nutritional consultation, some life coaching, if you have had a mind control experience and are wanting some guidance to find your way out of that, please hit me up. You can find me on Facebook at Emily Moyer, or you can email me at technobrat21@gmail.com. Join us at Conspiracy Cocktail and at our health meetup group on OffPlanet Media. It's called Get Healthy and Happy in 2020. We'd love to see you guys there. And that's all for today. Alrighty, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.